Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are answering the question, are we wrong about the crypto bottom, or is there further to go for cryptocurrencies? The main question that continues to come up is now a good time to be buying alts as the markets have dropped over 70%, and obviously in some cases about 90%. So let's answer those questions in today's video. Make sure you've smashed the like button to a new all-time high. Thank you for your support on the channel. And to sort of show your support further, make sure you hit the subscribe button with the bell notification icon. The best investment you're going to make. It's absolutely free. And if you dislike it, click the buttons after you've watched the entire video. And before we dive in, a quick shout out to our favorite sponsors, Bybit, link in the top of the video description for up to $4,100 of sign up bonuses. Spread your risk across exchanges, especially during a bear market, while we're seeing the likes of Celsius and lots of other companies not doing too well during these market times. Look for companies that have been around during the bear markets and continue to show strong gains in their business models. Bybit, link in the top of the video description. All right, guys, let's dive into today's topic. We're looking at the crypto bottom. Bitcoin bottom is now a good time. And of course, if you've been following my channel for any amount of days, weeks, months, or potentially years, you know that this is not the time that I like to be investing into altcoins. We have seen the bloodiness of the downtrend, and every time we continue to buy, or anyone continues to buy altcoins on the way down, they're basically cutting their hands on the falling knife. So this is the chart of Bitcoin, obviously, and you can see that every time there is a buy the dip call anywhere over Twitter or YouTube, you can basically see for any day that was red, there's usually someone saying, at least at that stage of the bear market near the top here, people saying buy the dip, buy the dip. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. Buy the dip. The market never comes back to a previous all-time high. These were the things that were said over 6 months ago, and of course have been repeated for years. But of course now we find ourselves underneath the previous all-time high, like we looked at in the last couple of videos here, and of course the mega live stream we did on the weekend. And I'm not seeing that the bottom for cryptocurrencies is in. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has some good signals for a potential bottom, but we'll never know if it's the bottom, like the final bottom, until after the fact. No one can call if that is going to be the exact bottom, but we can get a rough idea of when the bottom should occur looking at timing, which is exactly what we do here on the channel, looking at the timing of the market. I do hear some people say that you can't time the market. I think it is much easier to time the market than it is to call for an exact price, because we have cycles where you can see what has happened in the past, and it gives us a rough idea of what we think is going to come next. And of course, it's what we've been saying for many months now, that we're looking for a low in late Q2, possibly Q3 or Q4. I know it's a big time span there, about 6 months, but we did have 6 months where we knew the low, or had a reasonably solid idea that we weren't going to see a significant low in the first half of the year, bar the last week or two of the first half, which is where we currently sit. We also currently sit in extreme fear of the market too. So we've got to take this in consideration when we're answering that question about is crypto bottomed? Has it bottomed? Is this the low? Are you wrong? Should we have been buying altcoins and wait for those to then come back and give us the 100x's? Well, we're still seeing a lot of extreme fear. Yes, the answer is to buy when the fear is out in the street, but of course we've seen a lot of fear. So if we were buying all these cryptocurrencies, all these different altcoins, yes, and of course Bitcoin as well, then we basically don't, if you were looking at it in a realistic sense, you probably don't have any money left if you were continuing to buy all of these dips. And I know we hear it all the time on the internet, where there's a lot of people saying buy the dip, and they say that they're buying all these dips, but I honestly don't believe that they're buying all these dips. Or if they are, then they have a lot of other funds and sources coming in to continue buy the dips, and then they end up having a pretty bad average price that they have entered with. So Bitcoin is the first thing. Could it have bottomed? It could have. I'm not sure if we're at that final bottom yet. We won't know until after the fact. I think maybe we still have some time for this market just to grind its way out. We did see a good bounce in the last 24 hours to get a weekly close above the previous all-time high. That is this yellow line right here, which is about 19,900. So we did get a good close above that, but we've just slipped under it while I'm filming this video at the moment. The next thing we look at, this is for the question of the crypto bottom. Are we wrong? Well, we can see the dominance here. The Bitcoin dominance has taken a sharp drop, but this is most likely due to stablecoins. So I've got this little chart up here, Bitcoin dominance. This is looking at the dominance of Bitcoin minus the stablecoins, but this one is also minus other cryptocurrencies which are centralized. So I don't like that idea. However, the chart is very similar. It's basically just looking for the pattern. So we disregard the percentages up here. We're just looking at the pattern of the Bitcoin dominance minus these other projects. And this is also the pattern for Bitcoin dominance minus the stable coins. If it was just the dominance minus the stable coins, we would have this sort of pattern here where you can see the highs of the dominance have been taken out. Forget the percentages, remember, the highs have been taken out and the dominance is increasing. Of course, the last couple of days have shown the dominance drop off just slightly, but the overall pattern of the dominance is that we are now climbing out of it. So with the dominance on Bitcoin's side, even if the stablecoins were included, the money is either going into Bitcoin. Yes, the price is still dropping. It's going to Bitcoin, or it's going into stablecoins, which is what is dropping the Bitcoin dominance on this chart, which includes stablecoins as well. I think over time, this will eventually break out, provided we hold some of the significant support levels, and we can show some of those support levels right here. So that's underneath this zone of about 41% using this chart, and we get that to hold up and then move higher. This is not in favor of cryptocurrency. So all the other 20,000 altcoins out there, this is not in favor of the altcoins having had a bottom just yet. If this was to happen, the market to go up, the dominance, then we would then see lower prices for the altcoins. So the question we're answering here, is it the bottom? So there's a couple of reasons already why I don't think this is the bottom. And we also looked at this in a little more detail with some maths in yesterday's video. So I'll leave a link to this video at the end, this video right here at the end of this video. So stick around for that. The other big thing why this is really, really important is that a lot of people are still holding more altcoins than they are holding Bitcoin. Now, if we're holding altcoins while all of the prices are coming down, but the Bitcoin dominance is going up, then we are losing a lot more by holding these altcoins. So this is only about an 18-hour-old poll with nearly 2,400 votes here, and it's still at about 50-50. It's 49%, 51%. Still a lot more people, well, a lot of people holding more altcoins than Bitcoin. And this is going to hurt their portfolios extremely badly in the next few months. I still see altcoins are going to have at least another 6 months of hard times, probably more like 12, 18 months of difficult times. And some of them, majority of them, are probably not going to come back based on what we've seen in history as well. So 2,400 votes. I'm still seeing this as, it was a near 50-50 when I reposted this 3 hours ago. So I guarantee there's going to be a bigger flush out of altcoins is going to happen in 2022, because we need to see these projects die. This is just a natural part of the cycle. Altcoins to be flushed out, Bitcoin to regain some dominance, some strength in the major crypto. Maybe you can throw ETH in there. Maybe we can throw another couple in there. And these will then have to take the reins before the market comes back, before people are willing to risk more Bitcoin or Ethereum or stablecoins, fiat, in the market again. This is just the gambler's mindset. So the altcoins, I believe, will definitely get flushed out further in 2022. Even though over the last few days, we've got on a daily chart here, we've seen altcoins able to hold the ground on some of them. You can cherry pick some of these altcoins that have had a reasonable strong move over the last few days to a couple of weeks against their BTC value. So they've outperformed Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks. Now, Total 3 is a chart that we always come back to. This is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And over the last week, this has basically gone sideways, sitting between about 320 billion and about 370 odd billion. So this market cap is showing everything excluding Bitcoin ETH, but it also shows stable coins. So this isn't the greatest example, but this is all that we have to go by. So I would say that the stableness of this chart is based on the stable coins, people selling alts, selling Bitcoin, putting into stable coins. And then eventually, if they sell the stable coins for fiat and put the money back into their bank accounts, then this will continue to drop down as well. It has dropped a lot. We know it's gone down a hell of a lot here at about 71.5%. At its extremes from the old all-time high. And generally speaking, Just as a recap, altcoins will tend to drop 90 or more % from the all-time high. Of course, we have stablecoins included in this, so we're going to have to take that into account, and maybe it's only going to be about 80% because stablecoins are now coming up to about 20% of the overall market cap. So at 80% down, that brings us to about 200 billion. We still have a lot further to go from that current price of about 320 or 350 billion dollars. Give or take, it's going to be about 30-40% from that point in time. So Bitcoin, although it could have a low at this point, having pushed higher and regained some of that lost ground from that over the last couple of days, we dropped to 17,500. We are still slipping under that at this point, but the day hasn't closed. We're into a new day, into a new week, so that's the positive sign here. And yesterday did close back above 20,000 USD. Overall, the timing is still not there for my analysis. I think we still have some more at least best case scenario, probably some grinding to go. Now, cherry picking some of the altcoins, and the same thing could happen for Bitcoin here. Now that if we do see a significant low here, looking at the volume that's come in, we can see that we did get some pretty good volume over the last week. Even though the price was at 22K, we did drop into 17.5, but now bounce. We have good volume, so that's a good sign for some sort of bounce. Now, this bounce could come up and retest 23K. That was a previous support level. It did drop at 17.5K to this previous support level before the market took off. So we could be range bound in this zone here all the way over here, a year and a half later. That's also a possibility. We could bounce and come back to 25, which is the previous low in May. Obviously, we could bounce, come back and test this underside at 28K. But I think with the amount of hurt that a lot of people have gone through, if we did see any sort of bounces like that from Bitcoin, that's going to be a solid 50% bounce from the low, which will then equate to 70, 80, maybe 100% in some other altcoins. And I think you would then see a sell-off again in alts and Bitcoin as people take profits from that bounce. So they're going to sell that rip. Even though we are a long way down, I still think we'll probably see some of those signs if the market was to bounce a significant amount, even a small amount. So that's going to put the time frame at a little bit longer while we go through the sellers and the buyers. Everyone's sort of trying to figure out where is the support zone coming in as we continue to sell off on each of the rips. So as we take a look over to, let's look at ADA first. This is pretty much what we've seen. ADA has been one of the stronger cryptos. If we take a measure from the 27th of May to where we're currently on the 20th of June, that's just over 3 weeks. So these are some of the cryptos which have outperformed Bitcoin over the last few weeks. And if you take it back from the 12th of May low, then you're looking at about 5 weeks for ADA, having outperformed, just over 5 weeks actually, outperformed Bitcoin. So this is something that we could get wrapped up in and forget that the markets are in a bear market, a downtrend, and they do very much so go on rallies within that downtrend. So we can take a look back at March. March was a significant time where a lot of people were trying to buy altcoins for the next rally up, but it was so weak. And in the case of ADA, it was only 53% over the course of 6 weeks. So keep that in mind, especially with the timing, taking it from the 9th of May low. We're now 5 weeks into our 6th week. So be very, very careful of where these next resistance levels are in terms of price. And we're coming up to some resistance levels in terms of time. What ADA has done in the past, as an example, in terms of the rallies within a bear market. So we've got time projections and price projections. Keep that in mind so that you don't get caught out buying these peaks again as the market continues to correct. And if this is the low, then I think we've probably got a fair bit more time to be seeing the market bouncing up and down, testing those highs and lows. You might be wondering, which cryptos do we want to buy in this type of environment? Something that is, where we are now, where everything's quite low and everything's very depressed and we're going through those anger stages. I'll be looking for patterns like this. I'm not saying you have to go and buy Binance, but I'd say look for patterns like this, where the market is up and still trending reasonably well, even though it's in a tightening range. It's much better than the majority of altcoins, which look like this. They've gone on some runs and they've basically been tanked almost all the way back to their previous levels before the bull market took off. So Binance is something that I would look at in terms of a altcoin that might outperform Bitcoin and ETH because it is holding up so significantly well compared to the other cryptos and compared to Bitcoin and ETH during these times in the market. So what we can learn from the last few days and of course few weeks is that we can still go on some significant runs. We can move up from the lows, go on a few weeks rally with some good percentage gains. We have seen 64% on ADA at the moment against this BTC value. But just know that this happens during bear markets. We get the rally up, another little tiny rallies, and we can go on these big moves within the bear market. And we won't know until we have basically ground our way out and broken our way past the accumulation zone, if this is in fact an accumulation zone. And you can see this from history, going back to ADA. It does these good runs, and this happens for all cryptos. You can see these runs is still in a bear market, but it eventually breaks down, comes back and tests the low, and then you get a weak rally into a final low. And what we also know from history is that cryptos will tend to bottom out against their BTC value once Bitcoin has started on its next run. You can see this from the dates here, August 2019. Bitcoin had a peak in June of 2019, while the rest of the market was basically selling off as well. They had their little peaks and then the markets sold off. So you got accumulation zones, then the breakouts, retests, then the breakouts again. So be patient. These can just all be intermediate bounces during the bear market. Don't get caught with your pants down trying to buy a lot of alts still when there isn't any confirmation in the Bitcoin market. And stay tuned to the channel, smash the likes up, all-time high, like and subscribe. Also, if you want to spread your risk of having cryptocurrencies on exchanges, check out the link to Bybit. Link is in the top of the video description. Up to $4,100 of sign-up bonuses, and that allows you to have multiple exchanges rather than centralize all of your money on the same exchanges. We've seen what has gone wrong while people have been loading up into Celsius and the like. More exchanges will probably go down, so spread your risk out. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Until then, have more fun to get more done.